Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Well guys, I'd mentioned in a previous video we were grinding up some of these little 9-inch straight edges, and one of these is destined to go out to the Barzy Summer Bash to be a door prize for this year. But in order for that to happen, I have got to get this thing done because we are getting down to the wire. So I'm going to actually start scraping this thing in. We already have ground it, got it, should be pretty darn flat, but we need to still get this thing actually scraped in so that it'll be a nice item, I think, that someone can just take it and use without having to scrape it in themselves. So we're going to go over here and put this thing on the balloon plate, and we're going to start the process of scraping this thing in. So let's get going. And before we start scraping, I just want to kind of get an idea of where we are on this thing with as far as flatness goes, and I just did a rough grind on this for the most part. I say rough, it was, I didn't go to a whole lot of trouble to get a perfect grind because I knew I was going to be scraping it, but I wanted to kind of see where we are, so I'm just going to call this 0. Now I'm assuming too that, you know, this is perfectly parallel to the back side here, but it should give us a good indication for flatness, and this is a tenths indicator, so you know, that's about a 1/2 thou. Whoops, hit the piece there, but so the most I've seen it go down so far is about 6/10. And it looks like we definitely, this end down here is just a little bit higher than the rest of it. Once you get into about here on out, it's fine. So anyway, you know, this is within a 1/2 thou to start with, or 6/10,000ths of an inch. So that's pretty flat to begin with. We're going to try to get it flatter than that, and we'll do that by scraping. So I got an area here blued up, and you know, really it's not always the best to try to blue up a ground surface. You're much better bluing up a surface that's been scraped, but I want to kind of get an idea where we are. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to hinge this, and it looks like it's hinging about right in here on this side and about right here. So we're not quite, we're showing that it's not on the very ends, but it's not really, you ideally want to be about 1/3 of the way in. We're out a little bit, so, and I'm going to just blue this thing up. We'll ride around on the blue, and we'll flip it over, and that's kind of what we're showing. We got some high spots here on either side. So anyway, that right there will give us a place to start with our scraping. Actually, what I'm probably going to do is my first pass on this is just going to be making some crosses, go ahead and getting some scrape marks in here, and then we'll actually start bluing it up and whatever. But seeing this, I might try to scrape in those corners a little bit heavier than the other places. But let's go over here and do our first round of scraping. So let's do some scraping, and to do that I'm going to be using the Biax Power Scraper. You can do this completely by hand with the hand scraper, but the power scrapers really make things go by a lot quicker. I've got one, I'm going to use it. To start with, what I want to do is put just a crisscross pattern on here. When scraping, you always really want to kind of work in 45-degree angles. So we'll start and go in one direction and come back and go across it the other direction and create that hatch layers, and that right there is going to let you kind of scrape on top of one another, break those lines up, and get the points of contact that you want. But we got to start somewhere. Even if this thing was perfectly flat off the surface grinder, we still would want to have individual points of contact to use it as a reference in scraping rather than having a perfectly flat surface here. So anyway, let's get going. We're just going to get in here and do it. I've got my scraper set up here, and again, we're just going to come in and kind of put a pattern on here to start with. All right, I'm getting a little bit too much jumping around here. I'm going to make some adjustments to this. I think I'm going to come in here like such, and we'll clamp another one down here. See if that does better. Making individual lines and individual straight marks. Try not to jump on top of one another here. I'm going to hit these ends in here a little bit heavier because I know that's where we blued up is pivoting on. So now I'm going to come back in here and go at it in the other direction, crisscrossing again. I'm gonna wipe this off. Now I'm going to take a stone, and we're not trying to sand it flat with that. I'm just trying to knock any burrs off. Now I'm going to put some yellow on here. This just kind of gives me some contrast. This is just a little bit of yellow dye. That's way too much. I like to put this on here. It just kind of takes the glare off a little bit. And it helps you see when you go over here to blue it where those high spots are. So let's go over to the plate now. And we'll spot her up. Make sure we got a good area here to blue on. We'll grab our straight edge. Come in here again, pivot. We're pivoting on the corner now. We're pivoting on the corner now. So that's telling me those are my high spots. And that's exactly what we're seeing. So what we're going to do now is come in here, we'll start scraping these high spots off and working our way till we get this thing flat. So now that I got something to work with, we're just going to come in here. I'm going to probably go in both directions again. I'm still kind of roughing this out, but we're only going to hit the blue areas this time. And we'll do the same thing again, just kind of hit it. See a little bit of blue there. All right, come back the other way. All right, let's clean it up. Stone it. And let's put some yellow back on it again. Again, this yellow just kind of takes the glare off. It really helps you see what you're doing. It also kind of shows you when you get over here after you've scraped it one time, you can tell where you've scraped and where you haven't scraped much better because you scrape that yellow off with the blue. So I'm going to go blue it up. We'll be right back. So again, we're kind of touching on the ends, but it did move in a little bit. It's exactly what you want to see here. So another pass. Again, we're just kind of concentrating on those high spots. I am hitting more than just the high spots though, because you know we're just trying to get contact right now. So I know that we got a lot to take off. So we are trying to remove metal, but I am focusing on those areas where I can see the blue. All right, guys, back over to Blew It Up. I'm going to do a couple cycles of this. I'll bring you back in a few minutes to kind of show you where we're at. Well, I made 5 or 6 passes on this thing, and we're getting pretty decent coverage now. You know, I'm probably got a little bit up in here, maybe I'm not hitting, but from about here over, pretty good contact. Now, this is nowhere close to being finished, but main thing is we've got it fairly flat, and it's hinging about right. So I'm changing my strategy up now. Instead of just going in here and kind of doing the crosses, I'm going to start kind of doing a little more dive bombing in here and really trying to get down and just hit the blue spots and pretty much nothing else. I've shortened up the stroke on my scraper a little bit, which will help me kind of get in here and fine tune it. So, you know, right now we're probably highest here in the middle. So I may do some light crosses in here and then just kind of touch off on the rest of these blue spots. And I'm just kind of going in one direction now and then spotting it rather than doing 2. So, you know, I'm just trying to hit. I'm not trying to dig it, I'm just trying to kind of hit it there. Now here in the middle, you know, I'm going to probably do some more kind of strokes, not full crosses, but hitting more wider of an area, because I know that this is still my highest area here. But I am trying to concentrate on those blue areas. These areas where I got a lot of contact, I'm just trying to break those up into smaller points. You got one big blob. I want to make that big blob a bunch of little bitty points. All right, let's blew her up and see where we're at. Go at it again. I changed directions from my last pass. You change directions every time. So basically this time, the scratch marks that I made last time, I'm crossing them up, cutting them in half. Again, we're trying to make these big spots, small spots with more points. Once we get a little bit more coverage, we'll come in here and by hand and really start just bumping those individual points. But right now I'm still trying to get my coverage to really come together here. We're getting closer though. I will bring you back again in a little bit. I've been working on this for probably about 45 minutes to an hour or so, and we've got really nice coverage from one end to the other. And I took my little square inch piece here, and I'm probably averaging around 30 points per inch across the part. Got a little bit better contact in the middle than maybe out here on the ends, but still, we've got good contact all the way across. At this point in time, what we're going to do is I'm going to change gears, and we're going to start scraping this safe surface over here. And before we get through with this, we will go back and check the bottom, because just by removing some metal off of this, it's likely that my spotting on the bottom is going to change a little bit. So before I try to get this, down 100%, let's go ahead and get this side done, and then we can go in there and kind of work on them, alternate back and forth between the two and get them knocked out. So let me get set up so we can start working on this side and continue on with this thing. Got a little jig we built actually for a larger straight edge, but it works the same way. I'm basically just tilting this up so that I'm scraping flat. Instead of trying to do this at an angle, this is now at a flat surface. It just is a more natural area. This is the rough ground or finished grind or whatever you want to call it, but we have done no scraping on it. And I'm going to start by just coming in here, and we're going to put some crosses on here. We got to start a pattern. So go in both directions. Gives us something to start with. All right, come back the other direction. We're assuming that this is pretty flat already, coming off the surface grinder. So I'm just trying to get a pattern started that we can really start working on scraping in. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit it a couple of times to start with, and then we'll go blue it up and see where we're at and go from there. I'm taking a pretty long stroke here. I've got a blade with a pretty wide face on it, so we're hogging off some material right here. One more time. All right, clean this up a little bit. I'm going to take it over the plate, we'll blue it and see where we're at, and this will kind of dictate where we go from here. Over here on the plate, come in here and brush it off, make sure there's no dust or anything on here. Just get a nice thin layer of blue on here, and we will come in and we're going to work off of this edge. So I'm going to come in here, we'll put this in here. I'm going to start by hinging it. It's hinging high up on this corner. It's a little bit hard to hinge in here, but it looks like it's hinging on the two corners. And when we pull it off, yeah, we can see we're hitting high there and there. So back over here scraping, we'll start just hitting these areas on the end and bring it all in just like we did before. I'm probably not going to show the whole process here. Do this just like we did the first one. You start out now, we're going to start hitting the blue areas. I'm roughing in right now until I kind of get markings all the way across, and then we start fine-tuning it and getting our points in there. So I'll bring you back after we do some scraping on this. Well guys, I think I got this thing finished. This face here, it took about an hour altogether. Went in pretty quickly actually once we did that roughing, and I'm pretty happy with what we got there. Again, probably between 30 and 40 points, probably closer to 30 on average, and bottom about the same, looks pretty good. But we're going to call this done, and my next step here is get this thing packed up and on its way out to California to the Bar Z Bash. Well, there you go, a quick scraping video. I will say, guys, if you go back and look at my older videos, I go into this process a little bit more in depth. This was a pretty quick video, I know. I just kind of hit the high spots, put pun intended. And we got this thing scraped out. We just need to get this one done and on its way again out to California for the Barzy Summer Bash in 2018, where this will be a door prize. And whoever is the lucky winner of this straight edge, she's scraped in and ready to go. As always, whenever you start using a straight edge, you want to go test it on your plate. These things will move a little bit over time, so it may need to be touched up, particularly after being shipped across the country, but it's going to be pretty darn close. Shouldn't move a whole lot between here and there, but this thing is, as it is right now, I would feel fine going and using this on one of my machines, and I'm going to be doing a couple of these for myself to have, because I'm going to be needing them when I'm over here on the Monarch here very soon. So I'll do another one for myself. I'll probably do that one off camera. Won't show it to you guys, but we'll let you see it when it gets done. So with that, that'll be a wrap. As always, thanks for watching, guys. Leave me some comments. Please subscribe if you haven't already to the channel, and we'll catch you on the next video.